Ladies and gentlemen, performing America the Beautiful, please welcome the Armed Forces Chorus and Carrie Underwood.
Carrie Underwood's decision to perform at Trump's inauguration already triggered a heated conversation among her fans, but what followed was completely out of the blue. In the midst of the backlash and fierce debates, a familiar but surprising Hollywood celebrity emerged, Mel Gibson. His support for Underwood left many in disbelief, adding a new layer to an already polarizing moment. Could his statement change the narrative, or would it only intensify the controversy? Fans and critics alike had plenty to say. The controversy refused to die down, and the tension only escalated. Mel Gibson's unexpected support. The idea of Mel Gibson offering his support to Carrie Underwood is enough to raise eyebrows and leave fans in utter shock. Known for his controversial opinions and often divisive presence in Hollywood, Gibson's name rarely comes up in conversation without stirring some kind of reaction. Yet what if the seemingly improbable had happened? What if, during one of the most politically charged performances in recent history, Gibson had privately reached out to Underwood? This wouldn't just be a casual message of support, it would be a jaw-dropping act, considering his own turbulent history with the public. Carrie Underwood's performance at the inauguration of President Donald Trump, while monumental for the country music star, ignited a firestorm of controversy. Her decision to sing America the Beautiful at such a polarizing event left many in Hollywood divided. While some country fans hailed it as a patriotic gesture, others saw it as a betrayal. The inauguration itself, already a hotbed of political debate, was made even more so by Underwood's participation. Critics immediately came for her, pointing fingers, questioning her political leanings, and even accusing her of selling out. As the controversy began to simmer, Hollywood A-listers were quick to voice their opposition, leaving Underwood in an increasingly difficult position. Celebrities like Taylor Swift, George Clooney, Beyonce, and Oprah had all actively worked to oppose Trump during his campaign, using their platforms to influence the public in the lead-up to the election. Their failure to prevent Trump's return to the White House only seemed to fuel the fire, and many of them, still disappointed by the results, were now vocal about the idea of staying away from anything remotely associated with him. This pressure was further compounded by Carrie herself experiencing backlash. But then all of a sudden, speculation began swirling that Mel Gibson, a man whose own public reputation had been marred by controversies surrounding everything from his views on politics to his personal conduct, had offered words of support to Underwood. This wasn't just about an actor or director sending a private message. The idea that someone like Gibson, someone whose very name is synonymous with scandal and scandalous remarks, could take the time to praise Underwood for her courage to perform in such a contentious political climate was striking. It was not the support anyone expected. Mel Gibson, after all, is a figure whose career had been nearly derailed by his inflammatory comments and actions. Yet here he was, a voice from the fringes of Hollywood, possibly reaching out to a woman who, in many ways, stood at the very heart of the mainstream entertainment industry. It seemed almost too dramatic to be true. Gibson, the man who had long been under the microscope for his outspoken views, siding with Carrie Underwood, who was now facing an intense storm of criticism. What could possibly prompt such a gesture? The nature of Gibson's support, however, remains a mystery, an unconfirmed rumor, but one that captured the attention of both Underwood's fans and her critics alike. Could it be that he had quietly reached out, offering a word of encouragement? Or maybe it was a statement made publicly, aimed at bolstering Underwood in a way that only someone with his standing in Hollywood could. Either way, the shock value of such support would be immense. It's important to consider what such an endorsement could mean. Gibson's reputation as a controversial figure means that any support he gives is bound to be highly scrutinized. His own journey through the court of public opinion has been rocky, to say the least. Yet, despite his intense past, he continues to have a loyal following, one that could very well translate into more support for Underwood as well. A message from him could not only sway public perception, but could also act as a shield for Underwood in the eyes of her fans, who were questioning her decision to perform at Trump's inauguration. While no official statement from Gibson has surfaced, the mere thought of it is enough to raise questions. How would this have impacted the ongoing backlash against Underwood? Would the Hollywood elite and her fans have softened their stance if they knew that a figure as divisive as Mel Gibson had supported her decision, or would it have only fueled the fire, with detractors arguing that such an endorsement was the final nail in the coffin for Underwood's career? And if Gibson really did offer his support, what did this gesture say about the larger, often hidden forces at play in Hollywood's complex political landscape? But before going further, let's take a step back and examine the moment that set all of this in motion: Carrie Underwood's announcement to perform at the Trump inauguration. What drove her to take such a bold step, and how did her decision make waves across the entertainment world? Carrie takes the stage. Carrie Underwood's announcement of performing at the inauguration of President Donald Trump stunned her fans, igniting a firestorm of reactions from both her supporters and detractors alike. In a moment that was as bold as it was controversial, Underwood, the country music superstar, known for her wholesome image and deep ties to conservative values, made a public declaration that she would be participating in the highly polarized event. But why did she make this decision? What could possibly have driven her to perform at an event that had, for many, become a lightning rod of division in American politics? Underwood herself took to social media to explain her choice. She spoke of her desire to celebrate the country she loves, to show respect for the American tradition of peaceful transitions of power, and to take part in an event that symbolized the resilience of democracy. In her announcement, she emphasized her intention to sing "America the Beautiful" alongside military choirs, framing the moment as an opportunity to unite people, irrespective of their political affiliations. Yet the backlash from a significant portion of her fan base came quickly. Social media platforms were flooded with disappointed messages from fans who felt betrayed by her decision to align with a president who had caused so much division across the country. For many, Trump's inauguration represented a deep cultural and political rift, one that had torn the country apart. Underwood's decision to be part of it felt like a bridge too far, and fans weren't shy about expressing their anger. The reactions varied, but a common thread ran through them all: disillusionment. Fans who had once supported Underwood for her down-to-earth persona, her religious values, and her wholesome country roots now felt like she had aligned herself with a man whose divisive rhetoric had alienated millions of Americans. This decision turned Underwood into a lightning rod for controversy. Country music, after all, has always had a complicated relationship with politics. For many, the genre is seen as deeply aligned with conservative ideals, but there's always been a tension between the music's populist appeal and the political elites it sometimes embraces. In performing at the inauguration, Underwood positioned herself at the crossroads of this tension, aligning with a president who had sparked protests, public outcry, and a deep divide that stretched well beyond the political sphere. She had unwittingly placed herself in the midst of a cultural battle that many would see as a betrayal of the ideals she once stood for. The surprise announcement raised eyebrows far beyond country music circles. The question was asked: how could Underwood, someone so closely identified with the values of the American heartland, align herself with a figure whose presidency had become synonymous with anger, division, and scandal? The answer, it seemed, lay in her interpretation of patriotism. But for those who had long viewed Trump's rise as a dark chapter in American history, her performance felt like a capitulation to the forces that had fractured the nation. Her announcement, though a shock to many, was only the beginning of what would turn into a breathtaking sequence of events. The political implications of her decision couldn't be ignored, and the intensity of the reactions, from both fans and critics alike, only grew as the inauguration approached. The event itself, what should have been a monumental celebration of tradition and democracy, was about to become a masterpiece in its own right, but not without some unexpected twists that would turn the debate upside down. How would Carrie Underwood's performance take place, and what would it mean for her in the broader conversation around political divisions in America? The performance details of this inauguration were poised to be an unforgettable spectacle, but some elements quickly became a subject of intense discussion.
A performance to remember. The day of the 2025 presidential inauguration arrived, and with it an air of anticipation unlike any other.
The nation watched, as it always does, as new leadership was sworn in, marking the start of another 4 years. However, this particular event carried with it an additional weight, a political division that had been festering for years, now reaching a boiling point. Carrie Underwood, country music's golden girl, had chosen to perform at this polarizing moment. As one of the key performers, she stood poised to lend her voice to the occasion, but what seemed like an opportunity to showcase her musical prowess would soon become a defining moment in her career. Underwood, along with other notable musical talents, had been selected to perform during the inaugural ceremony. The lineup was star-studded, featuring a blend of well-known artists from various genres, each bringing their own flair to the grand occasion. However, Underwood's performance dominated the headlines. As she prepared to take the stage, the weight of the moment bore down on her. She wasn't just singing, she was stepping into the heart of a nation's political firestorm, but she had made her choice, and her decision was final. America the Beautiful was the song she would perform, a track that, on its surface, seemed to embody unity. Yet in this highly charged political atmosphere, even the most innocent of songs carried the weight of divisiveness. As Underwood made her way to the stage, the magnitude of the inauguration was palpable. The sprawling crowd gathered in the United States Capitol Rotunda was a sea of faces, each carrying with them a complex set of emotions tied to the changing of the guard. The cameras were rolling, the world was watching, and the moment was heavy with significance. But then, just as Underwood began her performance, something unexpected happened. The background music, the orchestral arrangement that was meant to accompany her, suddenly cut out. The silence that followed was deafening. In that brief moment, Underwood found herself vulnerable, standing in front of thousands, with millions watching from their homes and no music to guide her. For a second, it seemed like the ceremony could unravel in the most awkward of ways. The crowd fell into an uneasy murmur as technical personnel scrambled to resolve the issue. But Carrie Underwood, ever the professional, did not falter. She paused, taking a deep breath, and then, in a move that left no room for doubt about her poise, she continued to sing. A cappella. No music, no backup, just her voice, powerful and clear, ringing out across the gathering. Not planned, but it was raw and genuine. In an instant, she transformed what could have been a disastrous moment into something beautiful and unforgettable. Her decision to carry on without the music's assistance demonstrated her incredible vocal talent. The sound of her voice, soaring through the crisp winter air, brought a quiet dignity. Not everyone expected the performance this way, but it turned into something that people would remember for years to come. There was no escaping the power of her presence. The moment resonated, not just because of the music, but because of her ability to handle the unexpected with grace and professionalism. And yet this moment of triumph, one that showcased her composure under pressure, also drew attention to the larger political landscape. Her choice to perform, especially given the timing and the ongoing divide in America, wasn't without its consequences. The aftermath of the performance would unfold in a way that further cemented the complexities of her position. But Carrie Underwood's ability to turn a technical failure into an iconic moment only added to the weight of her decision to perform at this contentious inauguration. Her performance was more than just a musical act. It was an act of defiance, of resilience, and of political statement. But did it matter in the larger context of a Hollywood that seemed divided in its views on Trump? Underwood's moment of triumph came at the crossroads of art and politics, and for many it was a symbol of the growing tensions between the two. With so much at stake, the performance could easily have been written off as just another high-profile event. But what came next would only add fuel to the fire. Hollywood, with its deep political divides, had long played an active role in resisting Trump's presidency. But despite all the efforts to stop his return to the White House, his influence continued to grow. How would Carrie's bold decision to perform at this event, alongside her rising popularity as a political symbol, play into the ongoing battle for America's soul? Could her performance at the inauguration mark the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between Hollywood and politics? One thing was clear: Hollywood's attempts to shape political outcomes hadn't gone as planned. But what did Carrie's performance really mean in the grand scheme of things? As the nation remained split over the inauguration, her performance would be remembered, but perhaps not for the reasons anyone expected. Hollywood's political clash. In the lead-up to the 2024 presidential election, Hollywood's involvement in politics reached a new peak. Celebrities like Taylor Swift, George Clooney, Beyonce, Katy Perry, and Oprah Winfrey spearheaded efforts to prevent Donald Trump from securing another term. These megastars used their vast influence to promote Joe Biden, with Swift and Clooney leading voter registration campaigns while Beyonce and Perry used their platforms to galvanize support. Oprah, too, rallied behind Biden, hosting fundraisers and appearing at rallies, urging her millions of followers to vote. Their campaign against Trump was not just political, but cultural. Hollywood elites believed they could sway public opinion with their star power. Yet, despite their efforts, the outcome of the election was not what they had hoped. Trump's unwavering base proved resilient, and despite the celebrity endorsements, he won critical battleground states and secured the presidency again in 2025. However, as the election results settled, a surprising shift began to take place. While many Hollywood figures continued their opposition to Trump, there were emerging signs that some, especially those who had been vocal critics in the past, were beginning to reconsider their stance. It seemed that in the wake of Trump's victory, a more pragmatic view was taking hold. Some of the same A-listers who had previously condemned him were now signaling a potential thaw in their relationship with the new president. This evolving dynamic between Hollywood and politics became more evident in the aftermath of the inauguration. Carrie Underwood, a country music icon who had been relatively apolitical in the past, made the bold decision to perform at Trump's inauguration. Her decision to take the stage at such a controversial event made her a target for both praise and backlash. While some Trump supporters hailed her for her courage, many liberal fans, disappointed by her choice, expressed their anger publicly. Underwood's performance symbolized the political divisions that continue to define America. In a way, her participation in the event signaled the growing shift within Hollywood. Could she too be part of the changing tide, acknowledging the political reality that Trump's influence was undeniable? The backlash from her fans was harsh, but Underwood's decision to perform at the inauguration was also a potential political statement. Her critics felt betrayed, but would her bold move win her favor with Trump supporters? Some even speculated that Underwood's decision could solidify her place in Trump's circle of allies, a possibility that some Hollywood figures, once outspoken against him, might also begin to entertain. Amidst this speculation, Gibson's rumored support for Underwood added an extra layer of intrigue. What could his endorsement mean for Underwood's career? Would it validate her critics' accusations, or could it be as the kind of support that solidified her standing with Trump's supporters? This growing divide in Hollywood raised the question, was the entertainment industry finally coming to terms with the political reality of Trump's presidency? And could this signify a shift in the dynamics between celebrities and politics? With Underwood's bold stance, her performance at the inauguration, and the speculated support from figures like Gibson, Hollywood's political climate seemed poised to shift once again. Could this be the beginning of a broader change in the entertainment world's relationship with Trump? Time will tell, but one thing seems certain. Underwood's controversial performance and the speculation surrounding her newfound political affiliations were only the beginning of a larger conversation in Hollywood. Backlash and redemption twist. The decision to perform at an event so closely tied to a polarizing figure like Donald Trump sparked an intense backlash that reverberated across her fan base and beyond. Underwood, whose wholesome image and Southern charm had long made her a beloved figure in country music, now found herself in a precarious position. The backlash came swiftly. Criticism from fans who had once seen her as a symbol of American values now felt betrayed by her decision to align herself with a president they viewed as deeply divisive. Social media was ablaze with disappointment, accusations, and hurt feelings, with some fans claiming she had crossed a line. They had expected more from their idol, and the fallout felt personal for many. Speculation swirled around how this controversy might affect her career. Would the backlash diminish her fan base? Or conversely, would it solidify her as a figure of strength, standing firm in her political beliefs despite the storm? The emotional toll of such criticism could not have been easy, especially for someone like Underwood, who had spent years making an image of wholesomeness and accessibility. The pain of being scrutinized, judged, and criticized by the very people who once adored her must have weighed heavily. But as with any celebrity under fire, time has a way of healing wounds, or in some cases, intensifying them. Yet just when it seemed as though the public narrative was set, an unexpected twist entered the picture. Mel Gibson. Known for his own controversial history in Hollywood, Gibson's speculated support for Underwood sent ripples through the entertainment world. The idea of someone like Gibson with his own baggage standing in her corner might strike some as ironic, but it also carried with it a certain weight. Gibson, often viewed as an outsider in Hollywood for his unapologetic political views and past controversies, was not someone most would expect to step into the spotlight to defend Underwood. And yet, in this era of celebrity endorsements and shifting political allegiances, the potential for his support to reframe the narrative was undeniable. Could Gibson's hypothetical praise for Underwood's decision to perform at the inauguration be a form of redemption for her? His endorsement, while speculative, might have the power to shift the public perception of her performance from a political misstep to an act of courage. His influence, though contentious, carried with it the weight of someone who had long been at odds with Hollywood's mainstream politics. A statement from him could serve as a lifeline for Underwood, reinforcing her choice as a bold move in the face of adversity. It could even galvanize those who felt she had been unjustly attacked for simply making a personal political choice. For those who had condemned her for performing at the inauguration, Gibson's praise could be seen as a validation of her decision. It might even encourage some of her critics to reconsider their stance, recognizing that political views need not divide and that celebrities too have the right to express their opinions, however unpopular they might be. Gibson's support, even if unspoken, could shift the narrative from one of divisiveness to one of solidarity in the face of public scrutiny. The jaw-dropping element of this story lies not only in Underwood's performance, but in the unexpected way her career and public image could be influenced by the speculated support of a figure as controversial as Gibson. In an industry where alliances are often as fluid as the political tides, the notion of a public endorsement from someone like him is nothing short of dramatic. Ultimately, what we may be witnessing is the beginning of a broader shift in how celebrities engage with politics. With figures like Underwood, once seen as the quintessential all-American girl, now at the center of a political firestorm, and with the specter of Gibson's support, it becomes clear that the lines between celebrity, politics, and personal conviction have never been more blurred. So what do you think? Could Mel Gibson's support actually change how people view Carrie Underwood's bold decision to perform at Trump's inauguration? Or will the backlash continue to haunt her? Leave your comments below.